Hey there. Well, greetings from Berlin, one of the coolest places on the planet. And as cool as it is, it's still Germany. Alright, so let me explain. My name is Eric, and I am traveling around the world, posting these vlogs, and I always ask myself, would I live in this city? Is this a place where I would like to make a base? And the answer with Berlin is kind of like there's a little bit of a conflict in my reaction to this city and the vibe of it and the sort of energy that I feel here. On one hand, it's amazingly cool in a way that very few places can even aspire to be. And on the other hand, it's still German, uptight, and the Western world that I have sort of decided not to live in. Now, I grew up in Toronto, Canada, as a lot of you know. And a lot of you might also know that my father's family has some German background, but actually we're from Slovakia. And I'm also part Ukrainian and part, Canadian, normal mix of Celtic, whatever. So with those three parts, I have a lot of diversity of, feelings and history and ideas from different parts of me and all of this stuff. And the thing is, I find this city very intriguing from the sense that it's a Germanic city. So I'm a mix of German and Slavic culture primarily, with, Anglo, Celtic, North American culture as the place that I grew up. So this is a German city, but half of this city for a long time was ruled by this Slavic Soviet communist system, and it is close to Poland, for example. So there is a little bit of a Slavic flavor. Things are a little more run down, things are a little more rough around the edges, and it feels free, not as Western Europe is that perfect. A lot of places in Western Europe, especially Germany, are just perfect. They're sort of like ideal places to live where everything is in order. Do you see any of that here? No, there's graffiti all over the place. There's trash on the streets. It's a very living, vibrant place. But at the same time, in the people. And if you were living in Germany, if I were forced to live in Germany, I think this would be the place for sure. I could live in Germany. I think they've got programs for people with German background like me. But I don't want to live in Germany because, for me, the ideal thing is to take German values, which are some of the strongest in the world for work ethic and fairness in society, tolerance of people of different ideas and races and so on and so forth. German values are among the top, in my opinion, for those things. But the atmosphere of a society where everybody's forced to adopt those values is not ideal for me. A friend of mine who lives in Serbia once said, I asked him, he was very organized and basically he lived his life in a German sort of ideal way. And I asked, why don't you go and live in Switzerland, Austria, Germany, a place where people share your values? He goes like, I'd rather live in a place where people are not forced to be decent. And where people are not forced to be decent, you see who actually is decent. Anyways, I'm straying away from my point here. I like Berlin. It's really cool. Every possible trend that you can imagine in Europe is here, happening in a big way. It's young, it's vibrant, it's got style, but it's not a place where I feel I could find myself, because what I long for is Slavic culture and the simple pleasures of life that Slavic culture allows for, and the simple authenticity of people being who they are. People being who they are and being able to express that, rather than having to express different aspects of themselves through different countercultures and all of that stuff. I like to be in places where the simple life, the good life, is good and it's nothing to rebel against. Also, there's this idea of masculine versus feminine aspects of humanity. And I've always maintained that Germanic culture really overemphasizes the masculine. the masculine, the sort of functional, the sort of orderly, the sort of rule-based thing, the bam, 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 things need to be like this or else we're gonna yell at you, and doesn't really embrace the other side, which is the feminine sort of experience and emotional-based, chaotic, disorderly, random, all that stuff. And German culture, I find, is way too much in the masculine. Whereas Slavic culture, when Slavic culture is well integrated and functioning how a Slavic culture should, it very well balances the feminine and the masculine together. And that can be seen very clearly in how people seem comfortable with their traditional gender roles of masculine and feminine, and it can be seen very clearly in the way that men and women look and dress and behave. Whereas, but the Germanic culture tries to make everybody be the same sort of ideal human being, and thus puts in a sort of gender bending aspect, which also you have in other cultures. I'm very for the rights of basically anybody with any sexuality to express themselves. I'm pretty much a very straight heterosexual male, and I like really feminine women. In the Slavic world, you have, if I could describe what I like as an ice cream flavor, it would be premium vanilla. And in Slavic culture, you've got lots of premium vanilla in terms of like just plain good men and women who are just true to their traditional gender roles. And if that's what you're into, and I'm into that, the Slavic world is where I need to find a wife. Whereas the modern gender roles in countries like Germany and stuff like that are much, much different. Even the girly girls here aren't that appealing to me, because I know that they're so... they've been drilled so much into their heads, this very masculine Germanic culture where everything needs to be exactly like this, everything needs to be... And emotional expression is not something which is that popular here. In the same way it would be in the south of Europe or parts of Eastern Europe. Emotional expression is something like you don't really see people here in Berlin, even though it's a cool place, vibrant and everything. You don't really see them expressing themselves in just this natural way you'll find in so many other parts of the world, like Southeast Asia, Latin America, Southeast Europe, and all this stuff, the places that I hang out in most of the time. So when I come here, yes, it's amazing to see the artistic flair, the punkiness, the people drinking on the streets, the people who are homeless travelers and they find that this is the place where they want to come and camp out for the summer and live their life, and that it's open to everybody and it's a tolerant atmosphere. I love that stuff. But when I look at the people in the supermarket, when I look at the people on the street, on the subway, they still seem repressed emotionally. They still seem German in that way. Even they still seem a little bit depressive in some way when I look at them. And maybe I'm just projecting a lot of my feelings on this, but yeah, could I live in Berlin? It's the ultimate question that you have to ask yourself when you come to a place like this and make a video like this. Yes, I could live in Berlin, but I don't think it's a place that resonates with me as much as Belgrade, Serbia does, because that's a little more, well, it's got that Slavic flair that I'm talking about. It's got those Slavic women, it's got the culture, it's got the je ne sais quoi, the gusto. Yeah. So that's it, folks. It's been very nice and to be in Berlin. Yeah, you see lots of people just sort of like sleeping on benches like that, which is great. You know, there was a time in my life where I was backpacking around when I was 22 years old and sleeping in places, benches and all that stuff myself as well. And there's no shame about that. There's no shame about being homeless. There's no shame about all that. And it's great that those people have a place to go. I think that this is a place that I could come back to later in my life. But at this stage, I need to continue world beasting. And that means outside of the Germanic, Anglo-Germanic world. That means outside of what's safe and steady and prosperous, to go and continue on my adventure around the world to places like Southeast Asia, Latin America, and Southeast Europe, and continue building my tribe of people who have found that they feel more comfortable. Like, my philosophy is, I have enough German inside of me. I don't need to live in Germany. I will function in the German or North American way wherever I am. And I don't need to be in a society. I will take those values, what's good from them, and I don't need a society that's going to force that on me. I need a society that's going to actually teach me what's outside of that and teach me other ways of living, so we can make a hybrid existence with what's good of Germanic civilization, which is the style of doing business, the values of tolerance and all of that stuff, and combine that with what's good about other cultures, which is, I guess, closer to humanity itself, the expression of emotions, spiritual wisdom and all that stuff, which, yeah, I've enjoyed my time in Berlin, but the quest always goes on to find more interesting places and places that have the vibe. So thanks for watching this video. It's longer than I thought it would be, but I hope I shared some interesting stuff with you guys that you enjoyed watching. Catch you later. And if you watched till the end and you haven't subscribed, just tickle that subscribe button, why don't you? Tickle the like button. Alright guys, catch you later.